My name is Grayson Milbourne, and I'm the Security Intelligence Director for Webroot. Corporations want to adopt a mobile workforce because it greatly improves the speed and rate of which business can be conducted. Long gone are the days where you need to be in the office to reply to an email or to update a document. Today, with the advent of smartphones and smart devices such as tablets, it's easy to get work done no matter where you are. Unfortunately, with this great convenience comes an increased exposure to risk, and cyber criminals are very well aware of the ease of access that's provided with mobile devices. Every enterprise is different, and so the levels of security will be different for each individual enterprise. However, when I think about mobile security, I really break it down into four major areas that really need to be addressed. The first is the application layer. There are malicious apps for mobile devices, and so it's really important to have an application classification system. The second area that really needs security is the web browser. Many devices, or all devices I should say, have a web browser or web access, and the reality is that many web-borne threats function regardless of the device that's connecting to the website. If you think about a phishing site, it's very easy to fall for a phishing scam on your laptop as it is on your cell phone. The third component that's really important to consider is data protection. These devices carry a lot of personal data, and in a BYOD environment also contain a lot of corporate data as well. And again, this data is very, very easy to access. So this brings me to the fourth component to secure mobile workforces, and that's having device protection itself. These smartphones today have a very small form factor, and they're very hot items for theft. And so protecting the device itself is also a very important component to having good security. Well, aside from the four areas of security that I mentioned previously, which are application protection, browser protection, data protection, and device protection, it's really important to educate your employees as to smart usage habits with your device. Things like mandating that a proper lock screen is on a device, and it's really quite simple to have good security with a lock screen. Rather than using a 4-digit PIN, use a 6 or 8-digit PIN, and you greatly improve the security of accessing the data that's on the device. It's also really important to remember that in a BYOD environment, the device itself is not the property of the company, and as such, you have to think about the data that's on the device and how business data will be retrieved if the individual leaves the company. So it's very important that your BYOD policy, so to speak, includes very strict guidelines to what happens to the data from the company that's stored on the device. How is that data treated? Is that data stored in an encrypted container? And if the employee loses the device, what is the repercussions? Is that data going to be automatically deleted? And again, this really depends on the business. I think those are the main components to make sure that are enforced through a strong BYOD policy.
Hello, my name is Roy Tobin. I am a threat researcher at Webroot. Recently, we've seen an increase in what we call crypto ransomware. So this is where the infection not only disables the user's PC, but it'll also encrypt the user's documents and then charge the money to unlock the files. So the big difference between this and, say, a traditional infection is in the old school type of infections, the hassle was just trying to remove the infection. Once the infection is gone, the PC can be working again. But with the crypto ransomware, the files are encoded. If you remove the infection, their important Word documents, their banking details, any of their important documents are completely locked out. They use the same technique that we use to protect ourselves when going online to create this. So that's the biggest change we've seen recently. We've also seen an increase in what we would call potentially unwanted applications. So it's a grey area. At first glance, it might look like they're not particularly that malicious, but they're charging per click, or as you download them, they're trying to get you to input credit card details to unlock a certain functionality. It all stems from the fact that the malware industry is a lot bigger now. It's not just a couple of guys in a basement. We're seeing, crime gangs getting into this, because unlike, say, if you're trying to break into a bank or rob a store where the risk could be quite high, if you're attacking people in another country, there's a lot less chance of you getting captured by the police or caught. So the reward is a lot higher and the risk is a lot lower. So we're tending to see that they will be the biggest changes recently. Will we ever win the battle against malware? Win is perhaps too strong a word. It is like akin to asking the police, will they ever be able to solve all crimes? It is our goal, but it's obviously quite a difficult one. if somebody does wish to create malware and distribute it, it is very difficult to stop them, considering all you need is a PC and an internet connection. So what we have to do is we have to take away the motivation for them, which is money. If we make it as hard as possible for them to make money, it'll stop the amount of people doing this because there's less reward for it. Because we have a huge database of files and we see files coming in from our customers in real time, we have a great chance of stopping these threats in real time before they get to spread. So stopping these in real time, reduce the reward for the people creating the malware, and that will hopefully result in the malware industry slowing down.
James Ferguson, EMEA Business Development at Webroot. We believe that increasingly enterprise users will be accessing enterprise services via devices other than their mobile PCs. They will be accessing devices, accessing enterprise services with mobile phones and with tablets. It therefore becomes very important to secure those mobile phones and tablets with security software.
George Anderson, Global Product Marketing Director for Webroot. Oh, difficult. If I was a CSO, what would keep me awake at night? I think there's quite a few things that would really get me anxious. Particularly over the last year, we've seen phishing attacks become a really sort of difficult thing. You know, a lot of breaches are being caused because of phishing. And that's because it's really hard to identify that, you know, it's a phishing attack in the first place. You know, it seems to come from a friend or a work colleague or somebody you know. You're not highly suspicious about it. So, you know, actually getting somebody to click on that link is quite straightforward. And then I think the problem is, actually as a security industry, we've been pretty bad at protecting people against phishing attacks. You know, we tend to have used the technology to go around and crawl the internet and look for suspicious sites and sort of build lists, if you like. And that's really so reactive. You know, some of these sites are up for hours, they're not there for any length of time. So our chances of capturing that site is pretty low. So that's one thing that would keep me really sort of pretty awake at night. The other side of it is things like endpoint visibility. I think we've lacked, you know, we have good vision into what's going on in our networks, what's happening at our gateways, etc. But we've lacked sort of really a visibility of what's going on at our endpoints, and we're missing the big picture. We're sort of, you know, maybe we've got the big picture, but not the small picture. Like we're not able to correlate and put things together. So that for me is another really key area. It's something that keeps me awake because I realise unless we got that, I'm going to still be in a reactive mode rather than a proactive mode about protecting my enterprise. So that would keep me awake at night too. I think malware's changed a lot over the last 4 or 5 years. Volume is one thing. We've seen huge increase of volume. We're looking at things like 160 million threats out there in the world at the moment. We're talking about 200,000 or 300,000 new threats per day. That whole area is sort of underestimated by companies. They tend to think there's a lot less, only 40 or 50,000. And in fact, though, you know, volume is an issue. Obviously, it means that you've got to be far more proactive and do things in real time and sort of look at things and address things in a far more proactive way. I think the real thing is the sophistication of those threats too. They're far more multi-layered. They're trying to come in at, you know, different angles and use different techniques and combining techniques. So that, you know, that's a really big issue.